Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Bradenton City Council meeting, Wednesday, April 12th, 2023, at 8:30 a.m. in City Hall Council Chambers. Today, it's my pleasure to introduce our mayor for the day, Tanner Pippins, with Stewart Elementary School. And as we know, this is something we started last year as mayor for a day with me, and I think it's something that's great to kind of show the younger generation, give them the opportunity to see what things are like and what's our future. Because as we know that even though children are only 25% of the world, they're 100% of our future. So we have to show them the good ways and how to do things in a positive. So at this time, I'm going to ask Minister Jerry Wick with Manatee Life Church to come forward and give us our prayer, and then we'll do the pledge. If everyone would please stand.
Let's pray. Good and gracious God, thank you for your many and abundant blessings. Thank you for life itself, for the measure of health we need to fulfill our callings, for sustenance, and for friendship. Thank you for the ability to be involved in useful work and for the honor of bearing appropriate responsibilities. You have established governing authorities to promote peace and order and justice. Therefore, we pray for our mayor, for the various levels of city officials, for our law enforcement, and in particular for this assembled council. We ask that you would graciously grant them wisdom to govern amid the conflicting interests and issues of our times, a sense of the welfare and true needs of our people, a keen thirst for justice and rightness, confidence in what is good and fitting, the ability to work together in harmony, even when there are honest disagreements, personal peace in their lives, and joy in their task. We pray for the agenda set before them today. We ask that you please give an assurance of what would please you and what would benefit those who live and work in and around our beloved city of Bradenton. It is in your most blessed name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please join us in the pledge as Tanner leads us.
I
pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Are you ready? All right, we're going to call the meeting to order. Thank you. Perfect. All right, Madam Clerk.
We have 3 proclamations on the agenda this morning. The first one is National Public Safety Telecommunications Week, April 9th through the 15th, 2023. Whereas emergencies can occur at any time that require police, fire, or emergency medical services. And whereas when an emergency occurs, the prompt response of the police officers and firefighters is critical to the protection of life and preservation of property. And whereas the safety of our police officers and firefighters is dependent upon the quality and accuracy of information obtained from citizens who telephone the City of Bradenton Emergency Communication Center. And whereas public safety telecommunicators are the first and most critical contact our citizens have with emergency services. And whereas they are a vital link for our police officers and firefighters by monitoring their activities by radio, providing them information, and ensuring their safety. And whereas public safety telecommunicators of the Bradenton Police Department have contributed substantially to the apprehension of criminals, suppression of fires, and treatment of patients. Each dispatcher continually exhibits compassion, understanding, and professionalism during the performance of their job. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Jean Brown, as mayor of the city of Bradenton, Florida, do hereby proclaim April 9th through the 15th, 2023 as National Public Safety Telecommunications Week in Bradenton, in honor of the men and women whose diligence and professionalism keep our city and citizens safe. Signed, Jean Brown, Mayor.
Thank you. Chief? Chief?
Thank you very much. I'm Brad Myers, Communications Manager with BPD and BFD. So just want to thank you very much for your acknowledgement, and we greatly appreciate the kind words and the fact that, you know, the support that we get day in and day out from our officials. So thank you very much.
Well, I think also, just one thing before you go, Chief, that, you know, as we see a lot of things that happen around our country and world, that you see probably, you know, we know how important our obvious officers and firefighters are in that, but without that first step, sometimes we wouldn't be able to get there. So we know how important our communications are and going for that. So it's very important to the city and all of the citizens that you do what you do. So thank you. Chief.
Sir, and thank you, and good morning, everybody. Chief Melanie Bevan. Truly, what they are silent heroes. I call them the lifeline between our officers and the community and this city. Last year alone, 96,000 calls for service to the police department. I think another 14,000 to the fire department. If you can, you know, see 13 people up there doing that, accomplishing that great feat, you realize just what an incredible job they're doing. Somewhat thankless. They're the ones who are up there in the corner of a dark room. They don't get a lot of interaction except on that radio, but they are truly a godsend to us. They are the ones who keep our officers safe day in and day out, and we just couldn't thank them enough. Hopefully, we have rewarded them this week with plenty of gift cards and snacks and treats and anything else we need to do. So yes, in honor of this week, we thank them. Chief.
It's hard to top what Chief just said, but they've always been our voice in the dark, you could say. And, you know, when you look at the incident count, some of our incidents go for 10, 12 hours. You know, so that's, you know, there's something to be said for that they have to have our, you know, the full attention for that kind of time frame and process, you know, BPD's calls and more. So we just can't thank them enough. They keep us safe. And a lot of the fire incidents we depend on them, you know, immensely. And they know who to call. And they've got a long list, but from state level on down. So we really appreciate them and what they do for us.
Thank you.
And we're obviously surrounded by a lot of BPD and some BFD, and we'd all like to give you and your group a round of applause.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir. Councilman
just
Kramer.
want to thank Brad and the staff in the Communication Center. You touched on it a little bit, but they are the first responders. If you call for help, that's who you're getting, and it's a testament to you and your staff, the professionalism you exhibit. Thank you very much. I know you're a man of few words, so I figured it. But if you call 911, he's the one you want to be talking to.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
The next proclamation is Suncoast Remake Learning Days, April 21st through 30th, 2023. Whereas the Suncoast Campaign for Grade Level Reading is a 4-county effort in Charlotte, DeSoto, Manatee, and Sarasota counties to help children from birth through 3rd grade, especially those from asset-limited families, succeed in life by ensuring they read on grade level. And whereas the Patterson Foundation works with people, businesses, nonprofits, government, and the media to catalyze efforts toward shared aspirations through 5 key actions: connecting, learning, sharing, evolving, and strengthening. Remake Learning Days provides an opportunity for wide community participation to work towards the greater good of strengthening our learning ecosystems. And whereas Remake Learning Days across America is a 10-day festival that celebrates the many learning opportunities in a community. This celebration highlights innovative experiences and opportunities for youth and participants of all ages to develop their sense of creativity, perseverance, and curiosity. Whereas the festival events are free and provide educational experiences for youth of all ages, pre-K through high school, and their families, caregivers, and educators. Whereas learning isn't limited to the classroom or the school day, rather it's something that can happen in any place at any time. Research suggests that opportunities for experiential learning for families contribute to positive childhood experiences by bringing kids and their caregivers closer together. And whereas engaging children, parents, and families in a variety of learning activities outside of classroom hours and school buildings is a powerful way the community can create a learning ecosystem. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Jean Brown, as mayor of the city of Bradenton, Florida, do hereby proclaim April 21st through April 30th, 2023 as Suncoast Remake Learning Days in Bradenton, and encourage all citizens to participate in the many festival activities. Signed, Jean Brown, Mayor.
Thank you. Who do we have that's going to accept this? Anybody? All right, we'll move forward.
The next
Yeah,
proclamation
the teaching, right. Sorry, go ahead. Thank you.
is National Arbor Day, April 28th, 2023. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. This holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. And whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world. And whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. And whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Jean Brown, as mayor of the city of Bradenton, Florida, do hereby proclaim April 28th, 2023 as National Arbor Day, and urge all citizens to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands, and to support our city's urban forestry program by planting trees. By planting trees, we help promote the well-being of present and the future generations and enhance our community. Signed, Jean Brown, Mayor.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mayor, City Council, Honorary Mayor Pippins. I'm Greg DeLong, Assistant Director of Planning and Community Development for the City of Bradenton. I want to thank Tamara for helping us with this proclamation. It's very important. As the Mayor mentioned earlier, 25% of the world's population is youth. What we're doing right now will affect those youth in the future. So 100% of what we're doing now will affect 100% of the future. The community may not be aware of this, but the city actually lost its designation as a tree city a couple years ago. And one of the important things is recognizing Arbor Day. And we did get that recognition back this year after about a 2-year hiatus. COVID did play a major impact in that. We were unable to have meetings with our tree board. But I really want to thank our tree board. They work very hard in programming. They are behind this. I do want to make a quick pitch for a program we got going on right now. Is the free tree giveaway. It is open to City of Bradenton residents. You can register online at the City of Bradenton's website at cityofbradenton.com. Go under the news on the left-hand side of the homepage, and you can click the link there, or you can go to arborday.org/Bradenton. And there you can register to either have a tree mailed to your home, or you can have it or pick a tree up. Unfortunately, the pickups are in Palmetto, but that is where the Earth Day celebration for the county is occurring this year. The types of trees people can select for the mail order are bald cypress, dahoon holly, pink crepe myrtle, and sweet bay magnolia. And the 5 gallons that you can pick up, which will come in 2 to 6 feet in height, will include bald cypress, Duraheat birch, live oak, Florida Prince peach, and tropic peach or beauty peach. These are as supplies last, so I do recommend if you're interested in this to get online and register as soon as possible. But again, thank you for everything. And again, we are very happy to be a Tree City USA and to be part of the Arbor Day again.
Thank you, Greg. And I
Welcome.
think it's important, several years ago when we did it in the city and really got it out, I know where a lot of the trees were planted, and you drive by and and are able to see them 3 or 4 years later, because they are kind of small to start, so we've got to really nurture them and baby them, but they are making a difference now. So we appreciate that, and we're glad. It was important to me and all this council to get that Tree City back to the city of Bradenton, so
And I
thank
will
you.
make sure the tree board receives a proclamation
Perfect.
at their next meeting on the 21st.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. All right, Madam Clerk.
We do not have any presentations today.
At this time, a citizen comment will be accepted during the citizen comment portion of the meeting of any non-agenda items, agenda items, future agenda items, or topics of relevance to the city. Comments will be accepted on the public hearings at the appropriate time. We have one or two, actually, so the first one will be Bill Sanders. Please come forward, state your name and address, and you have 3 minutes.
Bill Sanders, 2502 Riverside Drive. Oh, I just turned it off, huh? Okay.
Did you turn it on?
I turned it on, the same button you touched. Can I reclaim some time, Tamara?
Please continue.
Last year, our meeting at this time of the year was on April 13th, and you can see there that we had a Mr. Joseph Cole, what's the form-based code for a 10-year review. He was telling us, being critical of some of our public art, that we fenced it in. He called it prison art, and he, if you remember that, it was kind of funny, but not funny, and, because we offer credits to developers to do that art at their developments. And I noticed we had a city or a county commissioner in the audience named Kevin Van Ostenbridge, and he was laughing, making fun of the presenter, and he was texting someone. And I also noticed who he was texting, and they were also laughing at the presenter. So I asked for a public records request of the text. I was sitting right where you are, Mrs. Coachman, and it was our city administrator. The text went something like this. What an exciting subject and presenter. Form-based code and a planner, slow motion. He needs a new outfit. Those pants look like they should be in an MC Hammer music video. You can't touch this, Hammer time. Strange. I didn't get the rest of that. It took me all day to get this, with a lot of being cussed at by our records keeper. Stormed out, said it's none of my business. They didn't file a complaint against me. So I think that's against the code of conduct, Mr. Mayor. I also like to know where we stand on the fraud, the financial fraud we had here a year ago at this time. And I'd like to have input from you to see if the public will be made aware of what that was, when that was, who it was. And it's been long enough that this investigation should have been concluded now. If not, we can send it down to Northport.
Thank you. We have next Keith Green. Please come forward, state your name and address. You have 3 minutes.
Keith Green, 1108 60th Avenue West, Bradenton, Florida. I just wanted to come and to give acknowledgement and to let know that I am organizing along with the local Knights of Columbus St. Joseph's Council here in Bradenton a First Responders Mass. It's an event that we are putting together to where we're not only praying for our first responders and members of law enforcement, but to also give appreciation. And I wanted to definitely come and invite all of you on the dais to the event as well. And I want to also thank the city administrator for his cooperation along with the other law enforcement agencies here in Manatee County. It's definitely my way, as well as the council's way of giving back and bringing something positive to the community, and to definitely, give the appreciation where it's due instead of just focusing on the negative all the time. And with that being said, thank you again for what all of you do. And I also would like to thank, Chief Bevan for the wonderful job that she's doing, and all the first responders here locally. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I have no other cards. Madam Clerk?
The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Staff is requesting approval of items A through T.
All right, Chair will entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, Ms. Moore. All right, any discussion? Hearing none, we'll start the vote in Ward 1,
Yes.
2,
Yes.
3,
Yes?
4,
Yes.
and 5.
Yes.
Okay, it's approved 5-0. Madam Clerk, at
The
this
ne-
time, I guess we're going to go for the oath?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Anyone wishing to address City Council during the following public hearings will please stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the factual statements and representations which you're about to present to this board will be truthful and accurate? Thank you.
Okay, we'll call, first one is Planning and Community Development.
This is Resolution 2316, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Bradenton granting special use permit number SU.23.0186 to construct a private residential dock up to a maximum length of 180 linear feet in the T4 General Urban Open Zoning District at 203 18th Street Northwest, Bradenton, Florida, providing for severability and providing an effective date.
Good morning.
Good morning, council. Let me just get this full screen. Where is it again? Ah, perfect, thank you, okay. From the beginning. Perfect, thank you. Good morning, council. My name is Rachel Arsenal. I'm with the Planning and Community Development Department, and I have been sworn in. Today, I am presenting about a special use permit request to construct a private dock into the Manatee River that exceeds 80 feet in length. The property is located at 203 18th Street Northwest. It is a single-family residence, and it currently has an 80-foot dock into the Manatee River. The current zoning district is T4O, General Urban Open, and the future land use is high-density residential. The applicant is requesting the special use permit to construct a 180-foot long dock and 942 square feet in area. The purpose is to access more navigable water through that extended length and to get past the wide sandbar. This is an exhibit to show you the comparable length of where it sits now versus that 180-foot length, and just comparison around to the neighboring properties. This is our seagrass map. This is to demonstrate how wide the sandbar is and the amount of seagrass that will be affected by this extended length. This is the bathymetry map to show you the depth of the water. It's quite shallow in this area. That's the point of having that access to the further out into the water. For our land use regulations, we have general standards for docks that are looking for a special use permit. There are 5 just general standards that we look at. 2 of them are applicable to this request. The first is the dock being designed to exceed the minimum setbacks of 10 feet from the extension of the side property lines. It more than meets that requirement. The second applicable is that the dock is similar in design and length to neighboring docks. These are all ranging from 190 feet to 143 feet long. Additionally, they're all used for the same function, recreational boating and water enjoyment. So it's very compatible with neighboring properties. Staff recommends approval of SU.23.0186 with the following stipulations: that it be kept in good and working order, that lighting must be in accordance with FDP requirements, and all other applicable or state federal permits must be obtained before commencement. Planning Commission met last month, and they recommended approval of SU.23.0186 with staff recommended stipulations. And that is it.
Do we have any, the applicant wants to talk, or any questions, or up to you? Thank you. Good morning. Just state your name and address for the record.
Good morning, Trevor Green, 812 45th Avenue East, Ellenton, Florida.
Thank you. Did you have anything you wanted to add, or?
I've got nothing more to add than what she already laid out. The sole reason for extending the dock is to get to navigable water for a boat lift for the homeowners. It's basically matching the two that we've done in recent years directly to the northeast of this one, I guess.
All right.
And yeah, we're basically just kind of mimicking what we've already done on those two.
Okay, all right, well then we'll go to the public hearing and then see, and then we'll have a chance to come back if there's anything.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, at this time, we'll open the public hearing. Hit that once. Anyone wishing to speak? Anyone wishing to speak? Anyone wishing to speak? All right, we'll close the public hearing. All right. Any questions by the council? Comments? Mr. Rudisell, anything? Is there a motion to be had?
Motion to approve Resolution 23-16.
Okay, is there a second?
Oh, just, do we have to say with the stipulations?
If you want.
With these stipulations.
Okay. Motion to approve with the stipulations. I have a motion by Councilman Kramer. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Mrs. Moore, okay, Councilwoman Moore. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll start the vote in Ward 2,
Yes.
3,
Yes.
4,
Yes.
5,
Yes.
1.
Yes.
Approved unanimously. Thank you. All right, moving forward.
The next item on the agenda is Resolution 2317, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Bradenton granting special use permit number SU.23.0096 to operate a school in the SCC Suburban Commercial Corridor zoning district at parcel IDs 3659-700-059, 3659-700-007, and 3659-700-109, Bradenton, Florida, providing for severability and providing an effective date.
Okay, good morning.
Good morning, Council. My name is Jamie Schindewolf, representing the City of Bradenton Planning and Community Development Department, and I have been sworn. The resolution before you today is a special use consideration for a school in the Suburban Commercial Corridor zoning district. Here you can see the site where it's located, just west of 41st Street, a little north of Manatee Avenue West, and it's approximately 1.55 acres. As stated, the zoning is suburban commercial the future land use is suburban commercial corridor, which calls for uses commensurate with suburban arterial roadways. This list includes social services, and only outdoor storage is explicitly prohibited. As mentioned, the zoning matches that future land use of suburban commercial corridor, and the land use regulations indicate that schools, public or private, require special use permits within this zoning district. Because this proposed building is an expansion of the existing school, it must be granted the special use permit to operate. Here, I just wanted to point out the big yellow area is the campus of St. Stephen's, and then you can see in the inset map the exact location of this proposed center. In 2017, there was a special use approval for a performing arts center on this site. However, that's expired, and the request before you today is a little bit different. We did carry over similar stipulations regarding the parking and the landscaping. And this current proposal is for a space that can be used for STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics, but in a flexible way, not strictly a performing arts center. This is the site plan that was presented to us by the applicant. This is not what you're approving today. You're approving the use, not the exact plan. But we do find that generally this use can fit on this site. The full list of special use standards is in your staff report, but I do want to point out a couple of them. It calls for a landscape separation strip of at least 10 feet in width along all property lines. And we have asked them to beef up the landscaping between their parking lot and the adjacent single family. And then related to that, that permanent screening shall be required to protect the surrounding properties from the use. There is a staff recommended stipulation to provide landscaping in the buffer areas along that western side. I won't go through all of these, but we do find that all of these can be met on this site for this purpose. Specifically, want to point out B and I as ones that apply to that stipulation regarding the parking design. As far as number of parking spaces go, here you can see in red the project site, and then the other colors show the available parking nearby. There will be parking on site, but they will also share parking with the campus at large. If you use our land use regulations calculations for the school use itself, there's a requirement of 217 parking spaces. If you use the regulations for the church, that gives you a total of 125. What they actually have already is 357. They're adding 72 spaces to give them a total of 429 spaces across the campus. So overall, we think that they will be fine with parking as long as they do share, as of course they will. As mentioned, staff recommendation is approval with the following stipulations. The site plan will of course be reviewed through our normal site improvement process. Parking will be accommodated across campus and on site, and then again, that landscaping stipulation. Planning Commission also recommended approval with these same stipulations. Thank you.
Thank you. Any applicant discussion? Okay. Good morning.
Good morning, Kara Koenig with ZNS Engineering, 1023 Manatee Avenue West, and I have been sworn representing St. Stephen's Episcopal School. So Ms. Schindewolf gave a very comprehensive overview of the special use permit request for the expansion of a school use. So I just wanted to touch upon a few additional items. With relation to the parking, I wanted to call out that there are existing pedestrian pathways on the east side of 41st Street West, and we are proposing a crosswalk across the northern section of 40th Street West and 4th Avenue. So as you can see here, they will be able to walk from the existing St. Stephen's campus to the STEAM Center. To talk a bit further about the STEAM Center, it is a science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics center. So we'll propose a variety of uses, including regular classes during the school day, host events throughout the school year, such as sports award nights, school dances, band concerts, etc. And with the hours of the church, the existing school, and the STEAM Center, we will fully accommodate parking with the proposed 72 spaces and the existing spaces on the campus. We do have dry detention ponds proposed around the site, along with landscaping that will be in accordance with the stipulations in the staff report. We have read through the staff report prepared by Ms. Schindewolf and agree with the findings and stipulations, and we request approval of this project. If you have any further questions, we're happy to answer.
Okay. Seeing none, we'll move to the public hearing, and we'll open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak? Anyone wishing to speak? Anyone wishing to speak? We'll close the public hearing. All right, thank you. Council?
Mr. Mayor.
I was going to say, gosh, that's a good job.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes, I'd like to commend the young man on his gavel work. I need to recuse myself as I am an employee of St. Stephen's Episcopal School, proudly. Dr. Pullen is here. One thing not mentioned is that the center, when built, will be named in her honor. And I think that's a great homage to all she has done at the school and for the community.
Ms. Barnaby?
Mr. Mayor, at this time, I'd like to make a motion to approve Resolution 2317, granting SU dot 23.0096 with the stipulations included from the staff report.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second with Councilman Kramer recusing for reasons stated. Is there any further discussion? We'll start the vote in Ward 4,
Yes.
5,
Yes.
1,
Yes.
2.
Yes.
Carries 4-0. Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is Resolution 2321. This is the second reading and public hearing for this item. A resolution of the City Council for the City of Bradenton, Florida, designating a brownfield area of approximately 1.9858 acres of land to be called Astoria on Ninth Green Reuse Area within the city and located at the northwest corner of 9th Street West and 23rd Avenue West, Bradenton, Florida, 34205. Parcel ID numbers 44819000001, 44821000007, 44822000059, 44823000003, 44824000001, and 44822000109, the brownfield area for the purpose of environmental site rehabilitation and economic development, and providing an effective date.
Good morning again.
Good morning, Greg DeLong, Assistant Director of Planning and Community Development. I again want to commend Ms. Melton on her zeros. We had a few less on this one than we did on the last case for Riverview 6. This is again another pass-through for us. We have HTG, the Housing Trust Group, is planning to build a 5-story, 120-unit elderly housing development on the northwest corner of 9th and 23rd Avenue. Again, this will allow the owner the ability for any assistance on remediation that may need to occur as development occurs, and or tax breaks on material costs. As I mentioned, this is a pass-through for the process. The state of Florida will make the final designation. In reviewing the materials, it does appear they meet all 5 of the criteria for the designation. We did send legal notices out and also posted in the paper. We did send notices to over 60 residents nearby. We heard from one, and they were just questioning what the designation meant. I did speak to them yesterday. They were very excited about the project commencing soon. So, and other than that, I will turn it over to Brett Bruman from the Goldstein Environmental Law Firm, who can talk more about the proposed project.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, members of the council and city staff. My name is Brett Brummond with the Goldstein Environmental Law Firm. We have offices at 2100 Ponce de Leon Boulevard in Coral Gables, and we represent the applicant HTG Astoria Limited. I will keep this presentation brief, as I know we met recently, just a few weeks ago, about another project. But this property is located in the northwest corner of 9th Street West and 23rd Avenue West. It's a collection of 6 parcels. And as a refresher, Florida's definition of a brownfield site, we like to call them a green reuse site or a green reuse area to represent the work that goes into redeveloping the property, making it something different than it was before. But the state of Florida defines a brownfield site as real property, the expansion, redevelopment, or reuse of which may be complicated by actual or perceived environmental contamination. Looking at the property itself, historically it was used for automotive repair and gas stations from at least 1957 to the present, and it's these uses that have complicated redevelopment. Specifically, during the applicant's due diligence process, they identified these historical uses, as well as the potential presence of underground storage tanks left over from those uses, particularly prior to 1980 when storage tank regulations really came into force in Florida. There are also minor exceedances of groundwater cleanup target levels for 2 petroleum-related compounds there. These are just minor exceedances, but this designation would allow the developer to have sort of an insurance policy in case any work needs to be done to address those exceedances and ensure that groundwater stays where it is. The development itself, as Mr. DeLong mentioned, it's a 120-unit affordable housing development for the elderly. It'll be a single 5-story building with standard multifamily amenities, including a community room, fitness center, 24-hour security, and a dog park. Construction should begin relatively soon and be complete mid-2024. The process, again, is relatively simple. It requires adoption of a resolution by a majority vote of the council. This is done after providing notice and holding a community meeting, which we did on March 15th. We had no community members attend aside from people stopping by to express interest in moving into the development when it's complete. And there are 5 objective criteria for designation. I'll briefly touch on them. The first is that the applicant must own or control the site. When we first submitted the request, the applicant was still the contract purchaser, but they now own the property and they have a redevelopment plan and have agreed to take any actions necessary to rehabilitate the site. The second is that the redevelopment and rehabilitation must result in economic productivity and create at least 5 jobs unless it will provide affordable housing. Here, multifamily development will clearly result in economic productivity, providing a safe place for residents of the city of Bradenton to live and work. And although this will provide affordable housing, some jobs will be created on site for building, leasing, and maintenance staff. The third is that the redevelopment must be consistent with the local comprehensive plan to be generally permittable. That's the case here. The development is fully permitted and is moving forward towards construction. 4, notice must be provided to neighbors and nearby residents, and we must afford those receiving notice the opportunity to comment, provide suggestions, and ask questions. We did that with the assistance of the city to provide notice to the community. We also separately advertised our community meeting and held that community meeting on March 14th, as I mentioned. I'm sorry, March 15th, as I mentioned. And finally, the applicant must provide reasonable assurance they have the financial resources to complete the redevelopment and rehabilitation. This is a project funded in part by low-income housing tax credits with assistance of the Florida Housing Finance Corporation. So the financial resources of the applicant have been fully vetted by the state. Additionally, there is financial support coming from the city through the CRA as well as Manatee County, which the applicant appreciates. And with that, I'm available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Any questions before we move to public comment? I also noticed that the silt fence and everything is already up, so they've already started a process there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you. All right, we'll move forward with the public hearing. We'll open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak? Anyone wishing to speak? Anyone wishing to speak? All right, we'll close the public hearing. Perfect. All right, the chair will entertain a motion.
Motion approval of resolution 2321.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further comment? Hearing none, we'll start the vote in Ward 3,
Yes.
4,
Yes.
5,
Yes.
1,
Yes.
and 2.
Yes.
Approved, 5-0. Thank you very much, Madam Clerk.
The next item on the agenda is Resolution 2341, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Bradenton, Florida, approving the execution of a State of Florida Department of Transportation Maintenance Agreement for fencing installation under the southern abutment of the Hernando de Soto Bridge, or State Road 55, designating the mayor as the city's authorized representative to sign the maintenance agreement on behalf of the city, providing for repeal of resolutions in conflict, providing for severability, and providing an effective date.
Mr. McClellan.
Morning, Mayor, Council. Jim McClellan, Director of Public Works and Utilities. This is something that we've been in the works with FDOT for quite a while. We have applied for a general use permit to install the fencing underneath the southern abutment as a means to try and mitigate the congregations that tend to occur underneath there. This would be a black powder-coated chain link fence with a dual gate 10-foot wide underneath to provide for access for DOT to do their maintenance work underneath the abutment. But in order to get the final permit issued for us to do the installation of the fencing, we need to have the agreement in place that says we are responsible for maintaining the fencing once we put it in.
Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
That's just,
Yep.
did you say it's black, it will be, is it powder coated or?
Powder-coated, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so it'll look a little nicer than, as good as
We're trying
chain
to
link
get it
can
as,
look.
we're trying to
Thank
get it
you.
as nice looking as possible, but also as
Reasonable.
protective as possible.
Okay. That was my only question.
So is that a motion?
Oh, I guess. I'll make the motion.
Make a motion to approve. All right, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll start the vote in Ward 5.
Yes.
1,
Yes.
2,
Yes.
3,
Yes.
and 4.
Yes.
Thank you, carries unanimously.
Thank you, Council.
All right, Madam Clerk,
The next item on the agenda is a city park opportunity update by Mr. Perry.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Council, Mayor, Honorary Mayor Pippin. A couple matters that we have under new business that I wanted to bring to your attention. As you know, we've been looking at different types of opportunities at the city, trying to develop strategic plans for the future. And the first matter that I wanted to bring to your attention is what we're calling a city park opportunity. And that is basically the area of Lecom Stadium. Of course, we own Lecom Stadium. And the adjacencies to Lecom Stadium is the solid waste facility that we own to the east, and to the north of there, the main public works yard. The Lecom Stadium, as you all know, is activated basically for spring training under our lease and use agreement with the Pittsburgh Pirates, and has been wildly successful for over 50 years. It's interesting as it relates to that area in particular, and if Elmo's ready to go. What we have as you go up to the stadium is 100 years of baseball. It was initially City Park, McKechnie Field, and ultimately Lecom Stadium today. But basically, the history is rather rich for that area. The 9th Street corridor itself and its history and culture here in Bradenton. And so when you look at some of the folks that have gone through there in that 100 years, it's pretty amazing. As it relates to Roberto Clemente and Henry Hank Johnson and other folks. And so here we see the 1923 to 2023 renderings, and up top are the older renderings basically of Lecom Park itself, originally City Field. Some of the teams that have played here and the history of those teams and what they've meant to baseball, what they've meant to Bradenton, what they've meant to the state overall. So what we're talking about is reimagining City Park as far as what it could do if it was activated for the rest of the year on a year-round basis. And when you look at that particular area, it's an area, the 9th Street corridor within the city, that hasn't seen a lot of redevelopment for quite some time. It's also an area that's adjacency is really next to the urban core and extends out our urban core of the city all the way down to the DeSoto Mall area and the like under the old layouts of the city. So we thought about what possibilities could exist. And we looked at, okay, what about the next 100 years, 2023 to 2123? And if you look at that rendering on the right, what that is on your lower left-hand corner of that rendering is Lecom Park itself. On the right side of it is the practice field associated with Lecom Park, and above it on the upper left is really where the Crowley Building Public Works Administration area is, and some other facilities, a good portion of the Public Works yard on the 9th Street corridor, so to speak. And we talked about, well, what could we do with that facility? And had a lot of input into that from different folks, and we've done some diligence, and I'm in that phase where I don't want to get out in front of my skis as they speak. I've talked with some of the councils about it throughout fact-finding and giving some information about this project, but I'm at a point where I think I really need to tell you all on the record formally about what the possibilities and opportunities could be. That photograph on the upper left-hand side is obviously a group of school kids with teachers and doing the like. And so when we looked at opportunity, we looked at the opportunity from a multitude of perspectives of redevelopment. What would activate that area on a year-round basis? Sports tourism. Sports tourism itself is a $91 billion industry within the state of Florida. If we were able to attract year-round baseball tournaments for competition baseball, it could generate a great deal of tax revenue. Additionally, on the left side of the 6-panel display is the green space. And so we looked at the possibility of a public park in that area that could be used by all the citizens, particularly those citizens that live in some of the underserved communities surrounding the park itself. On the far upper right is the connection to downtown, and on the far lower side is the use for community support when we talk about community support, we're talking about the possibility of engaging a partnership. And I want to get into that, but I want to be mindful of the two lower components of the panels, which is the 9th Street redevelopment and the underserved community of education in the area. So when I go to these panels here, where we're at is we're in dialogue with a multitude of different government partners. This type of project would probably require leverage with a whole host of other government partners. The city can't do it alone, nor should they. The best partnerships are typically those that are leveraged with both programmatic uses, benefits, and funding associated with the government partners. And so we have the city of Bradenton that owns the property itself and operates the facility as a spring training and minor league baseball. But we also have opportunities with the school board. Within that area, if we were to develop a 3-field public park competition baseball facility, we could engage the school district, of which we will be speaking with shortly, about the possibility of providing after-school activities for underserved children in those communities. When I say after-school activities, what are we talking about? Youth sports, obviously, within a sports athletic facility. Additionally, things like educational support and enhancement for upscale reading, math programs and the like after school. A lot of those folks are working and they have kids that are in school, so you have a very robust, meaningful aftercare program. And then lastly, career enhancement. We want those kids to start thinking about careers when they're young so that they have something to look up to other than bad things, basically. I think that's a positive thing from the school board's perspective, so we'll be talking with them. The Manatee County itself, intricately involved, obviously, with the TDC under the whole notion of travel and lodging and the tax associated with that. If we could generate a robust travel baseball program there that offers those facilities to the travel baseball community throughout the year through a private operator that would actually book it and maintain the field. TDC offered a preliminary economic development letter to me from their folks that do that kind of work for them, the fiscal impact analysis of about $26 million in additional spending per year. And that was only, I believe, based on about 7 to 8 tournaments there. We think we could do more. When you think about the year, you have the spring training that the facility is used pretty much exclusively by the Pirates. We all went through that recently in the last couple of months, saw how successful and exciting that was for the overall community. And then, of course, we have the Marauders through the summer. But other than that, when the Marauders are out of town or other types of opportunities come up, the travel baseball community has the travel tournaments that bring sometimes upwards of 100+ teams to town. So we have those 3 fields, and it's really play where the pros play. Lecom Park, one of the 3rd oldest stadiums in Major League Baseball community. It's pretty exciting. It's a great park, we all know that. And then we also have adjunct facilities at GT Bray, IMG, and the like. And so if we were able to bring in those big tournaments for the high school baseball championship and things like that, really it could spawn a lot of other additional economic development. So we're talking with Manatee County about that, trying to get a partnership and a financial commitment. We also have the state of Florida. I've spoken with our delegation, a legislative delegation from the Office of Economic Opportunity. They like these types of projects. What they don't like is necessarily Major League Sports getting support when they're supposed to be private enterprises, and that is not what this project is. This is basically the development of a community facility that also has an economic engine called sports tourism connected to it. So they are very interested in that. Currently, the House is appropriated in their capital budget recommendations within the overall budget, $750,000. Really significant initial contribution. This would involve multi-year funding and continuation of that to do both the field improvements and then moving on to the 3rd and 4th benefits of economic development and redevelopment in the 9th Street corridor, and lastly, connectivity with the downtown. Because as we all know, the distance between Lecom 17th Avenue and ultimately downtown is a fairly short distance that could be redeveloped. We're talking with U.S. Congress, Congressman Buchanan. They have gone back to some proposals for funding capital projects in communities called entitlements. We've asked them to consider this as a project. So that's where we are. And again, I didn't want to get out over in front of my skis. I want to take it to your attention. It's concept right now, but it is at the level where we're talking about the possibility of these partnerships, the funding associated with it, the next level of architecture and engineering, and ultimately other associated issues surrounding public works and the like. Just as it relates to the Crowley building itself, as you know, we had been planning on moving out of that administrative headquarters and looking at different options. None of them are solidified and finalized quite yet. But I like to get a little bit, a few moves down the chessboard, and I think that's kind of where I'm moving in this direction. Bring it to your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Perry. One other thing, can you leave that screen up for me?
Of course.
Yeah. You look at those 5 there are government entities, but there's been some conversation that I've been having with others of possibility. Obviously, we know the Boys and Girls Club has some property right at the end of Rogers School. We know PAL has to be moving soon. And one of the things that has always seemed when the Boys and Girls Club didn't leave the community but left a standalone structure when 13th Avenue moved to where they moved, some of that neighborhood feels that everything left their side of First. And even though there's things that are close, we know that major highway there seems to divide the children that maybe want to go to that. So I think it's very important that this park, as we go forward, could also, with other collaboration of the not-for-profits, the sheriff's office, and other entities, business entities in that area, to not only work to have a community center in that area that would be more of a private situation, but would tie in with this park, because as we know, when we look at some of our crime statistics, that is probably one of the areas that needs it the most. Talking with the school district right now, they're really trying to find a place to put 3- and 4-year-old pre-K, but the funding they could possibly get doesn't fund buildings. So if we had a community center in that area that could be that, and we know that, the Title I school in Rogers needs that. So that's just a step part of this. But if that could be something that we can work towards, and that may not be all government, but that may be something that we're trying to change, an underserved area that could be a huge difference, and as well as energizing that area basically 12 months a year. So any questions or concerns or positives moving forward? Yes, ma'am, Ms. Coachman.
Thank you. It's promising that we're thinking in this direction, because I've said it several times that area has the need. And when the Boys and Girls Club moved and the 13th Ave Center left the west side of First Street and went east, that's really not close for the children that are in that area and the teens in that area. So this is promising that we're looking at this. I guess I want to see more emphasis on the community, how the community can receive some, benefit from this. But it sounds exciting, and one way to get things done is to have a private-public coordination. So.
Yes, ma'am. And the Dream Center out on the east side is a herald of success. If you go out there,
it is.
When I went out there for the first time and saw all these kids from the neighborhood, some playing sports, some doing educational opportunities, some doing other activities, and I talked with some folks about, wow, how did this all develop and what do we do here? Mm-hmm. I was really impressed, and that's the kind of thing we want to do there.
And that was the kind of thing that was there at that 13th Ave, Minnie Rogers area. It was that, and it's definitely a need.
Ms. Moore?
I just wanted to emphasize a couple of things. I appreciate that this is concept right now, but more information going forward about the partnership and the potential contribution by the city. And I'm sure you're getting accustomed to just wanting facts to kind of apply and analyze. And I'll just also note that, to the point about strategic planning, I really would like to encourage us to move forward with that, because this does seem like a very beneficial concept. I don't think as a concept that there's a lot to object to at this time, but it feels to me like we are ahead of our skis because we haven't determined where we're going to put Public Works and the yard. So I don't want us to get in the habit of doing projects in that order. I'd rather that we identified where we were moving and felt comfortable and what that was going to look like before we engaged in projects to redevelop parcels.
I appreciate that, and that's why I'm bringing it to your attention. I think that perennially, in my position and perhaps in yours, you are faced with this dilemma: what comes first, the chicken or the egg? And are you a small thinker and a quick reactor, or are you a big thinker and then we basically make things work around it? And I think a good combination in the middle is the best place to be. Hence, I'm here before you today.
Thank you. Ms. Coker?
Yeah, well, for a little further to that, I feel like this is so preliminary. I do feel like, because we feel that way with the city hall and everything, what comes first. So I'm kind of glad to be hearing about it publicly, so that it doesn't down the road seem like, well, where did this come from? So I am kind of glad we're just getting it out there. But mostly, and this is just a personal observation, it seems like some of the crimes are being done more and more by younger and younger. And so this to me seems like, let's get them in on the ball field and get them off the streets, and you know, hopefully with the additional, if we can do some other things, that's just going to go towards that. So I think this looks like a great direction to be heading.
And the possible potential for education support.
All right, and yeah, I think everything that's been said today obviously is very important. This has been something probably in that area that has been going on for years of different discussions all over the place. And one of the things that I want to commend Mr. Perry and his staff on, and just kind of going through, that we're starting to bring it together. And obviously, we know in government that we've seen over the last several years that if somebody wants to kill something, they just try to wordsmith it to death or bring up false or untrue facts that we're not going to deal in here. We're bringing it up and doing it right. And that's the most important thing, is to do it right. And, you know, some of the things have to be done behind the scenes a little bit at first to say, are people interested? Because you don't want to bring some of this stuff out and then find out that partners aren't interested to work with you. And I think the one of the things that I'm most proud of that my 2+ years as mayor now, and especially lately, that we're collaborating with a lot of partners, because in today's world with the cost of things, there is no way that one individual group, whether it be the not-for-profit, whether it be the government, whether it be the private world, can do something by themselves, especially to make an impact in a community of our size with some of the socioeconomic situations that we're dealing with. And we've got to continue to go down that path and figure out ways to make it better for those of us that, you know, need the most help. So I'm very excited about this. It's very important to bring it out. We've got another exciting meeting tonight to talk about things, and you're going to see a lot of the things start happening that are going to move this city to that next generation, and that's what's important. So thank you, Mr. Perry, and great job. Yep. You're up, Mr. Perry.
The next, and final matter, I believe, under new business for me at least, is the golf course study. So, as all of you know, we own the golf course out on the east side of the city, and for quite some time it had been operating at a financial deficit. It's done considerably better over the last couple of years. It still owes, as an enterprise, it's supposed to be self-sufficient. Our other enterprises are self-sufficient, and this particular one, golf, has been a challenge both here in Bradenton and probably around the nation. My past position had experience of ownership of 4 golf courses, and we had the same problems. Golf has been dwindling as it relates to participation and a whole host of other competitive factors that challenge the business model as it relates to the profitability of golf today opposed to yesterday. To that extent, adjacent to it, we also have a city facility as it relates to Pirate City, and it's out on the far east part of the city. And what we'd like to do is basically proceed and take a look at golf itself as far as what the opportunities are. As I speak about the business model of golf, you see certain things come up that seem to be doing quite well. Top golfs around the country, the whole concept where you would go to this very high-tech type building and hit high-tech golf balls that have trackers and other types of imaging on computer screens and tell you where the ball lands and what your lay is and how to shoot the next shot and the like. As you're doing that, you're consuming food and beverage, and when you and your group of 8 leave there, you probably have a bill for about $1,000 or so. Pretty profitable undertaking. That's where people, and particularly younger people, like to go spend their entertainment dollar, I guess. It's not the same as playing golf, for sure, but it still relies on the same type of concept. What we want to do is look at the golf course in totality, from the perspective of its finances, from its perspective of programmatic needs. Does it need capital improvements, major investment in the future? Is it going to take more money putting into it? What would be the return on that investment? I come out of that finance background about maximizing your working capital. We have working capital at that golf course, and we want to maximize the value of that working capital, not have to subsidize it with general fund type tax revenue and the like. And strategically, how does that major piece of real estate play into the city's future? Both in its single location, it has environmental challenges, from what I understand, that it was designated in certain areas with as a prior landfill, and associated environmental conditions that are relegated to those types of uses, and the whole host of other possibilities. And so I want to do a comprehensive study. This gets a little bit back to, what comes first, the chicken or the egg. We're not talking about what we do with it. We're talking about what it is and what maybe could be done with it. We're not doing anything with it. And so I would just, again, try to advise you that that's kind of the direction I'm going in. I believe that we're looking at a study that would probably be $25,000 or less, and probably take somewhere on the order of about 4 to 6 months to complete. And there are a lot of folks that kind of work in that space. I've used them before, and I think it would be money well spent, opposed to continuing to keep on going on to get along. Right now, I believe the course is in the deficit position of about $600,000. They have been able to pay back a little bit of money over the last couple of years to the deficit that has been borrowed because of the negative operating net on it, and it includes about 33 employees, I believe.
I think when you say that, Mr. Perry, one of the things, if you look at the numbers, you saw it going south for quite a while, and then COVID hit, which changed a little of the direction of outdoor golfing, especially for the clientele that use it in that status. But you see it now starting to turn back, that COVID is gone, that it's starting now to not be as profitable year by year as it was, where before it was year over year. So, and again, this is not to say we're going to take away the golf course. We're just going to study it to say, is there other opportunities or improvements that can be done to make that more of a year-over-year profitability in today's status, today's market, maybe.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct. I know some other courses have target areas. One of the things is people don't have the 4 to 5 hours to play 18 holes of golf. I certainly don't. I love playing golf. Played it all the time when I was younger. Once I started working full-time, have these kind of jobs, not so much. I think a lot of people are in that boat. And so that's, I guess in today's busy world of instant gratification and electronics and everything else, the population that has that kind of time is dwindling, hence the modification. And so there might be some opportunities to look at the 18-hole course of what we have and maybe do some sort of top golf type activity out there that's quicker, that's a 2-hour type of activity and things like that. We don't know. I mean, I can tell you that golf is changing, and the economics of golf is changing, and that's what I want to look at, because right now we're not going in the right direction, in my opinion.
So, do we need?
I don't think we need a motion. I think it's. I mean, if I needed to.
Limits.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I ask a
Any
question?
questions? Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am, Ms. Coker.
Are you doing both golf courses? I wasn't sure. Do we have, don't we have two?
No, we have just one.
We just have one,
Yep.
okay. And then, okay, then that, if we're gonna do that, I think we should be looking at the shuffleboard too. Because we just
the
approved a
shuffleboard-
new roof, and
Right.
the whole agreement up front with them was that they would maintain it. Now
But we don't operate that. We have a continuing operating loss on this one. We have capital that we have to put in there for capital improvements, and I can take a look at that. You may want to very well look at how much we put in there. This is a continuing
totally
operating
different.
enterprise, right?
Okay.
It's supposed to be self-sufficient.
Any other questions?
I have a quick one.
Okay. Nope, okay, Ms. Moore?
Does the study include some kind of community involvement or polling or anything, or is it just the economics
It's
of
more
it?
technical at this point, and it's not just economics, it's programmatic, it's finance, it's operationally, and it's future capital, that kind of thing. I think if we would go to community outreach, there'll be a time for that, but I don't think we're there yet.
All right, thank you, Mr. Perry.
Thank y'all.
All right, at this time, I'm gonna, do we have any unfinished business?
No, sir.
No, sir. I'm gonna ask that, for the fire department to kind of do their part first before we get into council reports, if that's all right. Chief?
So, Tim Gear, Fire Chief. So as far as like the introduction of the squad, it had to get some warranty work done, so we're gonna have to move that to the next meeting.
Okay.
So, one of those things, brand new truck, a little extra work we get done, so. Not very exciting, but, it is what it is. So, we'll move that to the next meeting.
Okay.
Lord willing.
All right.
Okay.
Thank
I do want to take one issue up on behalf of Bradenton Fire Rescue, and that is a capital need. We've spoken for a little bit since I've been here, basically. I know we've talked about it, the need for an additional aerial platform, a large ladder truck. We have two, I'm sorry, I'll let the chief elaborate on that. The short version of this is that there's two major components. One is the cost of it, about 1.6 million approximately, and then secondly, the build-out time. If we would have basically come up with that money today, it would still take on the order of 2+ years to build it. I'll let Chief elaborate on that. Just to let you know, though, there's a couple of different options, and those options basically are to agree to pay for it at the end, agree to pay for it over a 2-year period and a 2-year build-out, a 3-year period, a 3-year build-out. But I think that my finance department needs to know a little bit, and we don't have to take it up today. If you want to, that's fine. I think we're in pretty good shape with our capital funds to do this, but what we would probably look at doing is taking half the 1.6 million, or roughly $800,000, and dedicating that, reserving it for the pay down for an additional $800,000 next year to come up with the $1.6 million that it would take to buy this in 2 years. The condition of the second aerial platform right now is quite bad. I personally observed this when I was out at Carlton Arms, and they were putting a lot of water on the fire from the aerial platforms, and when they went to put that second truck away, they couldn't even get it into gear, and that's all I heard it doing was grinding and catching, and she says, I don't know if it'll make it 3 years. And with all the aerial stuff we have going on in town, we probably need that type of capacity. At that point,
So-
way out of my bandwidth and wheelhouse, I'll leave it to the chief.
Well, and I did bring a short presentation type if y'all want to bring up numbers. In our rolling stock report, the operating cost has far exceeded the purchase value of this vehicle, with it being 23 years old. NFPA recommends that we replace an aerial at the 15-year mark, and we're already at 23, and then when we finally get this replaced, we could be at 27 years, worst case scenario. So it's not a pretty picture. None of, when I say, we can talk about past history and all that, but it served its life purpose. We had it towed yesterday. He's exactly right with the maintenance of this vehicle is just out of sight, and the dollar value on that keeps going up. So we have spec'd a new aerial. The price is what it is. I brought all kinds of finance options or even payment options to Rob. 10-8, who we've dealt with for years, They actually don't care how we finance, how we pay for it. But what they do care about and we care about is getting the contract locked in so we can get a build spot. So what they did is our salesman came back and he has a 24-month max opportunity in what we call lane 1, which all our trucks are lane 1s because we don't get a lot of fancy bells and whistles on them. They still look really good if you've seen them, but we don't get extravagant. So this would entail giving us the motor we want, things of that nature. So so really what I'm looking for is that we lock in the build time. And, it's up to Lance and Rob and them how they want to pay for it. And I think they've got that dialed in pretty well. But what I'm seeking today is approval to get that build time locked in. And the rest is kind of, however they deem to pay for it. We can work that out with 10-8. So that's what I'm seeking today.
All right, so Chief, I know you don't like to look to the past, but if you say that the 15-year life of one of these trucks, and we're probably going to be almost 13 years past that life.
Correct.
Once it's there, and obviously, it's not a safety issue. If something happens, we've got partners we can call in right now, but we want to be able to do it ourselves. So in my mind, as we think about this, so we've actually got 13 extra years out of this truck. So however you want to amortize that out, basically it's a little more than $100,000 a year we've saved from those 13 years. So basically now putting in 1.6 is money we've had in the bank, basically savings and being good stewards of the taxpayer money, but now we need this. So I think it's very important that the way you've seen the last couple of years, that we've started getting trucks that are way past their lifetime to get us a fleet that meets the needs of our citizens today.
Correct. Yes, sir. And we've noticed already in trending that our operating and maintenance costs are coming down with the purchase of new apparatus. So that's an improvement right off the bat, reliability. And in 18 and 17 and 18, this truck was out of service more than it was in service. We've had in-frame done already, a motor rebuild, transmission rebuild. We've gotten to the point where we really can't do anything more to it without even more expense. So, and our neighbors, we're talking about neighbor fire districts, they do depend on the city, and we depend on them. They strategically place their ladders around the county, just like we do in the city. And the longer if this truck goes out of service, we're going to have to look at it as a county issue versus just the city. So, it goes, everything we do when we're talking coverage, it goes beyond just the city. And we put the city first, but it does affect our neighbors. And we depend on them for auto aid. So we do. So.
Other questions or comments? Yes, ma'am, Ms. Coachman.
I have a comment. Just earlier in the meeting, we were honoring our dispatch, and how it's so vital. But it's also vital once they dispatch where our first responders have to go, that they can actually get there. So it sounds like it's a dire need.
Well, it really is at this point, and once we had it, like I said, it was towed out of the station yesterday. I mean, it's just so concerning. And, and we're already looking at other options on what we're going to do, in the 2 years we're waiting on it. So that's kind of why we're here, is to lock in that build time, and I'm confident that Rob and Lance have the ability to pay for it and figure that part out.
So, Mr. Perry, is this something that we're looking for, kind of a motion to move forward, and administration figure that through the capital part of it?
Yes, sir. I think based on our discussions, it's probably prudent to ask for a motion to support purchase of an additional aerial platform, a replacement aerial platform at approximately $1.6 million, and to authorize the finance department to reserve $800,000 in this year's budget to pay for that in next year when the build out is complete.
And that's something that we have been talking about, an aerial truck in the last couple of years, since you've been here, basically.
Yeah, I know I have,
Yeah,
and submitted it. I haven't gotten into a great deal of detail, though. And Chief's pretty modest. I mean, he doesn't ask for a lot in large part, but he's got a large department that has big capital needs.
And again, it's not something we can say, let's wait 6 months, then order it, and it'll be here tomorrow. This is 24 months out.
It's supply chain, and it's obviously still a problem.
Right.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, ma'am, Ms. Barnaby.
I'll make the motion that Mr. Perry just stipulated that we look at getting the contract and build time put in for a 1.6 ladder truck, or I'm sorry, platform truck, and that finance will figure out how we're going to pay for that.
That's what we'll do.
I'll second
Okay, I have a second by two people,
Everybody
Ms.
wants-
Coker, I heard first.
May I?
I guess my left ear works better than my right ear sometimes.
I just wanted to make. a
Yes,
quick
ma'am,
comment.
Ms. Moore.
I appreciate the need, and obviously, I think that it's important, but I would just mention that I don't like to vote on budgetary items without having more support and preparation before we come to the meeting. So to the extent that it feels like we're or doing a budget adjustment, but we didn't really get any materials in advance. And I think it sounds like we're signing a contract, which also I just have a preference to be able to review. So I appreciate that in this instance, we're here and we have constraints and needs. But going forward, that would be my preference.
I think
Ms.
that
Coker?
annually, the chief provides an update on what we call rolling stock report. Is that correct?
That's correct. I brought a page
Yeah.
specific
and
to
I
this
remember last year you
truck.
provided a pretty extensive book to that. And so hopefully that was reviewed by folks as it comes out, not maybe prior to
She
this
didn't get
meeting,
it right.
but as you
Being
look
new, you
at that
might not
report, yeah.
understand.
I'll be
Ms.
glad to
Coker has
offer
a
that
comment.
up.
I think it's more of a, I think, I wouldn't expect it necessarily from you, but I would expect it from finance to do their normal budget adjustment documentation. That was my
And
thought.
that, I think that can actually come forward once they figure it out. Today is more about, we are approving it no matter what, but from the standpoint of getting in that number, because we know, I think we waited for one of the other trucks and it put like 6 months back by 1 week because they had already filled the number. So that's the most important. So we want to get in as quick as we can to get the 24 months. So all of a sudden, we're not looking at now 28 months.
I appreciate that, and I don't
Yeah.
think anything,
Yeah.
bad
There'll
has
be a
happened.
budget adjustment
Oh, yeah.
this year.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it'll be
that will
there.
come
Okay.
before you, and we'll make sure we get you more detail on it.
Ms.
Yep.
Coker?
Yeah, I didn't get a chance, but I think public safety is probably first and foremost priority for me in those decisions. And I feel like we've got a chief this isn't the first we've heard about it. This has been talked about, I would say, for a year. And I trust that we'll figure out a way to make the amount work. Of course, there's a lot of details that'll come back later, but I think that you needed to know that we need to give you we hear you.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And it is, the time factor is real, especially with, all the supply chain issues that they're having. And I'll be glad to send our rolling stock report as a whole to you, and it'll show this aerial. The other thing is, there's more information we provide with data and run stats, things of that nature, operating costs, that'll be outlined in that report, and is, so.
Great.
Thank you. Any other questions?
And just a comment.
Yes, ma'am.
I've been here a couple of years. You're still new and you haven't heard some of the things, but I know historically you always use your due diligence, our finance, and you do too, Chief.
This is not a criticism.
No,
it's
no,
just
no, I'm
my
just,
preference that
I was just trying to put you at ease too.
All right, so we've got a motion and a second. We've had discussion. We'll start the vote in Ward 1,
Yes.
2,
Yes.
3,
Yes.
4,
Yes.
5.
Yes.
Thank you. Carries 5-0.
Thank you all
Chief.
very much. Yeah, appreciate it.
And I'll ask the department to get honorary Mayor Pippin a model of his
Yeah.
work today.
Oh, that's
That's a
exciting.
That'd be cool. All right, any other department heads? All right, Chief Bevins?
Only because the police department always has the stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Ah.
Anyway.
Bestowed upon you some top sheets. Mayor, Your Honor, there's a koozie. There's a little
For your
cup
parents.
that glows when you grab a hold of it.
Where's Fanta?
There's some dog cards, trading cards right there. a Frisbee. You guys are all wondering why you don't have these.
I actually got him for one of your nights.
I have the dogs.
Right?
The
A coin,
cars.
a spinner, and most importantly, this should have been on you early.
Ah.
But left side, there's a sticker for you. And there's a bag to carry it all in. That's all I have.
Thank you, Chief.
The fire department, since he took you out.
We have no competition here, so, no competition. Put your fire hat on, put your fire hat on.
Oh, there we go.
All right, any other department heads have anything? Ms. Singer? Now you got a cool bag to put everything in.
Just an update on building permit software. We're working through the Acela project. That's going to take about a year for implementation, but we're done with the building permitting module and we're moving on to the planning module. So we're a little bit ahead of schedule on that. So we hope to be moving forward pretty quickly on that one. The companion piece to that is the e-plan soft, is where you actually upload the building permits and we go through the review process on those and put in comments and approve them. And we purchased that add-on for GoPost that'll allow us to go live on that sooner rather than later. So probably in the next couple of months, we're going to start to transition into just electronic permits, where right now they can use BIM 360 or they can email us permits or they can bring in hard copies. We're going to try to get everybody in line with doing the electronic permitting review because it's just going to be a lot more efficient and we're going to have the system to navigate that. So we expect that to be in a test environment in the next month or so, and then probably going live with that, and we'll be putting things out on our website and working with Jeannie to publicize it and get the word out to the contractors. So just want to give you an update on where we're going with our projects.
Thank you, Ms. Singer. I think Ms. Coker has a question.
And,
Oh, Rob.
Mayor, just on Ms. Singer's comments, I think it might be beneficial when we have some time, and this probably would have been a good meeting, to give a little bit of more extensive overview on Acela and its associated other bolt-ons, because it really should bring a great deal of efficiency and improvements to our permitting process, and there's different reasons why they've taken a very proactive approach to the implementation. Whenever you have an ERP system, enterprise resource program like this, you're going to have hiccups. It's an IT platform. You're changing a little bit of the business process itself. There's different types of screens to deal with, the whole thing, and you're going to have hiccups. And so we've been meeting every Monday morning on a Gantt chart of the various critical path to successful implementation for this project. Robin and her staff have been very good in being responsive to that and thoughtful, and I just think that it'd be better if we get you guys in early on to know what we're doing and how this will help, so that you can tell your constituents what they can expect, and you should expect the benefits of a lot of the enhancements and improvements in this regard. It will have hiccups. It won't be without a flaw. But I commend, the staff over there for putting up with me every Monday morning. It gets a little rough in there, frankly. You know me, and some of those things. Yeah.
And I'm not sure if this is planning or not, but will the VRBO registration be going through planning?
Let me just touch on that. The state legislature has.
That's where I was going.
Yes. As you're aware, they have a couple bills. Actually, one is up in committee today. And it's interesting. Our lobbyist has told me that neither the industry or the communities are particularly in favor of it, but that something will probably get passed. And as you look at the bill and some of the components of it, it is more preemption by the state against local governments. It maintains grandfather status for those ordinances and different rules that were put in prior to 2011. It regulates a maximum charge, I believe, of $50 per unit, $100 for as many units as you can have. In the example that was put out by the League of Cities, you could run 100 units and you pay $100. It will not pay the cost that the city and municipality, the local government will have to utilize. It'll be regulated at the platform level by the Department of, I believe it's Hotels and Business Regulation at the state. So the enforcement authority will be taken out of the local government and put more towards the platform provider and regulated by the enforcement agency at the state level. There's a host of different components to it. We've been actively involved in it. League of Cities has been opposing different aspects of it, and it's a fairly contentious issue up in Tallahassee. So we don't want to do anything until we see what happens out of the state capitol, because it would all be for naught.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other department heads? Okay, moving forward, we can start council reports. Ward 1. Gotcha.
Okay. First off, I just want to wish everybody a happy Easter, to all of our residents and visitors here right now. And this kind of starts into the, we're getting excited about our Heritage Parade that's just about to come. And I love this time of year because we have so many visitors, and they drive down Manatee Avenue and they see lawn chairs being fastened out on the street. And it's a great time to talk about our community spirit. And it's a fun day. If you've never been, encourage you to bring your lawn chair down onto Manatee Ave and participate. It's a lot of fun, so I'm looking forward to that. There's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes, and thanks to the Hernando de Soto Society for all that they do to put that in. There's also a lot of road work and sidewalk work being done. Maybe it's just in my ward, but I hope everybody will just slow down and be careful. There's a lot of residents here that are visiting, and rather than getting frustrated and getting into road rage, if you could just take a moment to think this is your tax dollars hard at work, and that we're improving the infrastructure. So I'm concerned there's been a lot of accidents on the road, and so I just want to tell everybody, just slow down and be careful. So, and that's about it.
Thank you. Ward 2.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What is wrong with my microphone?
User error.
User error. Okay.
I'm always in your highway. Don't worry.
Moving forward.
Moving forward, I also would like to wish everyone a happy Easter. I had the chance to get away and visit our son and daughter-in-law in Austin, Texas, and let me tell you, I thought my son was a good chef, but my son is a really good chef. He had the opportunity to cook for us a couple of times, and it was a lot of fun. I also want to say congratulations to Art Center Manatee and Realize Bradenton for their award-winning performance in the Best of SRQ Local. They are mentioned several times, so congratulations to both of them. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Ward 3, Mr.
We're good. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Mrs. Barnaby. This was my week to do council corner on the newsletter that goes out, and thank you to Jeannie for her help with it. When I was brainstorming what to write about, it's National Volunteer Month, so I said I'll write about that. I think everybody up here on the dais is a volunteer of some fashion, but also just scanning the audience, I wanted to thank several people in the audience. I'm not going to call them by names, but there are several who actually volunteer to help the city. And I want to thank you all for what you do, sitting on boards, sitting on commissions. But without your help, we wouldn't be able to get the recommendations we get, and staff wouldn't be able to do the things they do. It would just, gum up the system. I think I've seen enough red tape, but thanks to you all, you helped cut through that. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Ward 4, Ms. Moore.
It's not necessarily a report, but just a comment that, tonight's a big night. And I would be remiss if I didn't say my preference is that it was a workshop instead of a special meeting. But in any event, though, I want to encourage people to come out and pay attention to the presenters and weigh in if possible with public comment. But I'd also like, and I don't know agenda-wise the most proper way to address it, but I'd like for us to also commit to having a conversation about giving staff some direction in regards to the negotiation instead of just ranking. My concern is if we don't provide some detailed instruction to staff, in connection with their negotiation, that they'll go through the exercise of doing a bunch of work only to have it then presented and, not really get to the goals and not move forward. So that's my hope for tonight.
Thank you. Ms. Coachman?
Thank you. I'm going to piggyback on a few things that were already said. Mine's better.
Of course it is.
Volunteers. We have several boards and a lot of volunteers that give their time, their talents. And I just want to say thank you as well. And generally, when someone volunteers, they're not volunteering for recognition. They're not volunteering for pay, but it's a passion or it's something they really want to do. So just thank you, those that are hearing my voice as well as those in the building. Piggybacking on speeding, I have a citizen that is quite troubled about speeding. And of course, speeding is all over the county, country, all of that. But in the neighborhood streets, it can be very dangerous. There was a, in July, I believe it was, a car ran through the citizen's home. So I know we're, kind of trying to brainstorm, and we also have a unit that meets traffic. I can't remember now the
Police Department's traffic safety.
Yeah. So, I assured her that, that we're thinking, we're trying to figure out ways. It's hard to get adults to behave, and children. And just to piggyback onto what I was saying, when I said that the chief and all that we work with, they always do their due diligence. But I understand that trust but verify kind of sense. So I just wanted to let you know I wasn't criticizing you. I was just saying we've been talking about this a lot. You just hadn't had the opportunity to hear it. Other than that, Ward 5 is alive.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
I forgot one thing that I wanted to mention before you go into your report, if you don't mind. Sure. One of the things that I noticed at the City of Austin is at every intersection, there is a sign right next to the traffic lights that say, "Do not block the box, fine $500. And I know that our police department has been working very hard in trying to get people to realize that all it does is gum up the works. It doesn't get them to move through any faster, so do not block the box. But perhaps our safety team ought to look at possibly I know our fine is not $500, but it might be something that we want to consider putting up. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. So I'll start out with that. One of the things that we've talked about for many years is obviously the road is an FDOT road in some of the areas that are the most. So one of the things that I would like to do at some point is get with our Secretary of Traffic here, but he's in Washington, he's in Tallahassee right now, so I was giving him till the end of the session, but that's something that I think is very important to work through with our traffic study, how that will make a difference, don't block the box, and really get the information out, because that is something that even with tonight's meeting that we've saw with the 8 public meetings that we had to give people information about what possibly could happen, that traffic was the number one. So, they're talking about replacing a bridge. They're talking about different things that have to be done, but we also need to talk about capacity and how we move it better and easier and different ways, because we know that we're pretty popular right now. We're pretty good at what we do in our community here, so people want to be here. So we're going to keep working that. So I think tonight's meeting is very important to discuss, go through, and again, we had 8 public meetings where the public could come and give us their ideas, and so I think it's important that we go through the meeting tonight, listen to the presenters, discuss it with the council, make a decision to what we're going to do, and then have the part start, because what will happen tonight is not an approval of the overall plan, it's just the next step. And the next step is important to keep growing and figuring out where we want to be. So I think that's very important. Obviously, everything DeSoto in the next few weeks. We're going to have on the 22nd the capturing of the city. We give them the key to the city. Also to go through that week, which is on the 22nd at the market at 1 o'clock. And then the next week is the big event. And so hopefully, knock on wood, this year the weather holds for us, because as we know, last year we weren't as lucky. But it's so exciting, and that's a big, huge part of our history in this town and what we do and again, it's the whole community, but it's right in the heart of our city, so that's important. And then collaboration, as we saw today, as we talk. The most important thing we do as a government, I think, is collaborate. We always don't agree on everything, but that's why you talk about it, and then you work through it, and you make it happen in the direction that we're going. So I think we've seen a lot where we can collaborate together in different options. And again, we're not that. I heard somebody say something yesterday that, it's not Mayberry anymore. We've got a lot of things on the table, and we've got a great administration that I believe is able to keep that going forward. And again, I'll say it again, that's one of the reasons I liked Mr. Perry when he applied for this job, because he had the $1 billion business that he had run basically in Albuquerque plus, and we're not 1 billion, but we're put a lot of things on the table for him. So I appreciate all that he does with his staff, and as he said earlier, he does have some exciting meetings, but it's important to keep the city going forward. So thank you for that. And then the last thing is our mayor for a day. Have you enjoyed it?
Oh, yes.
Are you ready to go?
Sure.
Yes, sure. So I would just like to thank this council, the administration, as well as all the staff that has had Tanner here today and what we've done, and to thank everyone for making this a great meeting for him, and moving forward that maybe one day he'll be sitting up here, because that's important, because we want you to be the next mayor when you're old enough. So, yeah, you got a little bit of time. So, all right, we will be adjourned. Yep. Thank you.